It's almost time. Almost trade time. Not yet, but almost time. We've got the stepbrothers, Todd and Kratz on a Monday. It's Braun. We're going to talk trades, rumors, the whole deal in like 2 minutes. When does the first big one go down? I need an A or a B list name this week. What day? I got to start with Top Father. Sorry, Kratz. He's got the most money and the most wins this year on the bets.
All right. This is the first one that came to my mind. I'm thinking the Yankees are going to get a pitcher, one of those top youngins, either a Crochet or – am I saying his name right again?
Yeah, Crochet.
Yeah, Crochet or a Skubal to the New York Yankees.
Oh. Wow, I was just asking for a day. He gave me a specific player.
No, I'm going player.
So you think this is going to be the first chip to fall?
I do.
What day?
Don't. Oh, what day?
Mm-hmm. Today's Monday.
Yeah, next Monday.
That's gonna be the first chip to fall. We gotta wait till
better
Monday.
not be.
Yeah,
it better not be. No,
you think we're gonna have a? You think we're gonna have a cold week where nothing's gonna happen?
I don't know. My hands are getting shaky here.
You asked him a question.
Now I'm all screwed up. Man.
Yeah, you got.
I thought you were asking who. You didn't tell me what day. I'm pretty
sure I said day. Can we roll back the tape?
Roll back your fro right now. Your fro is bothering me. That's the problem.
People were making fun of the hair, so I decided to go curly today. But anyway, Kratz, when is the first day of a deal?
Thursday.
First day, Wednesday. More than just a reliever. That's like it has to be more than like a David Robertson deal. In my opinion, you got to go.
David Robertson, I love that.
Well, he's going to get traded.
He always does.
He always does, and he just has a big smile and huge calves. But to me, like he's the barometer. Anything better than a David Robertson may go Wednesday and later. But I think somebody's going to, because these last guys are going to make their. I don't think Kikuchi makes another start as a Blue Jay.
That's a good one. I like that. And when's he supposed to start?
I thought Wednesday, so that's why I said that. That's why I said Wednesday. Because he started on Thursday. So he would be a Tuesday, and he is going to get pushed back a day and go pitch for his new team.
Barrios is scheduled for the 23rd, the 24th. I'm doing this quick because I know this is so fun for me to look things up on the fly. Is Yariel Rodriguez. I think he might be scheduled for Thursday. Nope, Bassett. You're way off.
Oh, boy.
Man, I'm way off.
Either way, you got to look out for him.
I'll go Wednesday night at 11 p.m. because nobody likes to do things during normal times. You know it's 11 p.m. at least.
Yeah. Last year was fun. Last year was fun. We'd be like, oh, man, we just found out a trade. It's 12 o'clock at night.
Always.
At night.
Always.
Scott's so pissed. Can't go to sleep till 4.
No.
I'm fine with that. I just think everyone else is sleeping. So let's charge the damn mound. Let's talk rumors.
Charging the mound.
We'll get to games. We got better than box scores. We'll recap the weekend. Don't worry. It's trade week. 8 days until the deadline. Bob Nightingale joined the show the other day. Then he added to his notes column on Sunday. So I'll let you guys kind of sort through this and let me know what stands out. Said the Yankees had not been down to talk about their top prospect, Spencer Jones, if you're counting Dominguez as a guy that's already been up in the bigs, but one of their top prospects. And Spencer Jones, he's like the Aaron Judge lookalike, pop and speed. And now the tone might have changed for big arms, which is what Todd Father's alluding to, like Garrett Crochet and Tarek Skubal, who I still have a hard time understanding for the Tigers' sense to trade. But anyway, Todd Father, what's the inside word?
I want to take this one here because this is not going to be a good take because people are going to think I'm crazy. But
they already think you are.
They already think I'm crazy. But I think this is a great thing. And I don't, people are like, oh, listen, this is our up and coming guy. Listen, he's a prospect right now. We get it. We don't know how he's going to transpire in the big leagues. We've seen these two guys. These guys can be 2 or 3 in a rotation for any ball club, if not a 1 for some ball clubs. These two guys are very good pitchers. And if you got to trade one of your big guns to another team, like in a Spencer Jones, I don't see why you should not do that. I think this is a great move. I think the Yankees should, and I think everybody be like, oh, this is crazy. This kid's 6'6", he's the next Aaron Judge. Well, yeah, he's very good, but you got to trade good to get good, and I really think the Yankees, if they have the opportunity to do this, they should.
I mean, I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
I don't.
Good.
I don't disagree with you, but to me, who do you give them, and which one do you want? I think my opinion is I don't think Scooble's in this. I don't think Scooble's in this criteria. I think Crochet's in it because his availability is going to be. He's going to be a free agent anyway by the time the White Sox are looking to win.
Mm-hmm.
So who do you give them? If they say we want Spencer Jones and another lesser prospect for Crochet, because I think those were the names that were coming out when Dylan Cease was in the discussion, or do you go Jason Dominguez straight up for Garrett Crochet?
See, I think you do the Spencer Jones and another prospect. I think Dominguez is a guy that he's played up there already. You've seen the spark. You've seen what he can do in the major leagues. Sample size. Don't get me wrong. He got hurt. But this guy's itching. He's itching to get back up there, and I think he'll platoon that outfield spot too as well, and he'll help them out in the long run. I mean, just think about that outfield. Just think about it for a second. The Martian, Aaron Judge, Soto.
Oh, you're already re-signing Soto. That's neat.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a neat free agent deal that you just.
I'm already.
Todd Frazier just locked it in.
I don't think he wants to leave. I don't think he's going to leave. So
well, that's good. That's case, good. But that's an off-season discussion. But here's my thing with
once Soto signs back. Yes, I'm saying it. Once he signs back, yeah, for sure.
Here's my thing. I agree with you. The whole Spencer Jones thing. Let's say Spencer Jones is the real deal.
Okay.
Even in 2017, when Aaron Judge put up a historic rookie season, you saw it at the end of that season.
Yeah, I lifted him up.
Countless. You helped him. You helped him. You heard him in August. You helped him in September. There was countless articles and talking to Joe Girardi about it. He wasn't necessarily going to make the team as a coming out of spring training, just coming off of his rookie year. He had a great spring training. So to me, Spencer Jones, until you do something in the big leagues, until you dominate the minor leagues, and a team wants him, to me that team is overvaluing him because he hasn't done it yet. And you have somebody that can help this team now. You traded for Soto now. If there is a team that needs to get a frontline starter and pay a premium price for it, it's the Yankees.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this. I want to go to Scott. Remember when Brody Van Wagner was the GM for the Mets and they went and got Edwin Diaz and everybody's like, and they gave away the first round pick. Yeah, they gave away Kelenic and everybody's like, oh, you're crazy. Listen, and Kelenic's having a great year. Don't get me wrong.
Took a little bit.
At the time, everybody's like, you're crazy, you're an idiot. He did struggle. And then all of a sudden the year before he got hurt, he tore it up. Now, this is the mismatch of what you want to do. Are you going to trade away a prospect? You got to be okay if he does tear it up. But at the same time, I'm looking for guys that are established. Maybe that's the old school in me. I want established guys. And these guys that are pitching right now, they're establishing themselves. So they're on the verge. Nobody wants to face Crochet and Scooble. These guys are nasty. I want the guys that are nasty right now. I don't want to wait.
First off, the Mets won that trade. You're correct. They got a dominant closer for years. Second of all, I need to go back and be like Stat Boy on PTI back in the day. Pardon the interruption. Kratz, you said after the dominant rookie season for Judge, he might not have made the team. I think you confused. 2016 when he struggled. Yeah. He comes up for 27 games. They're like, I don't know if he's going to make the team. Makes the team, hits 52 homers. I just want to clarify for everyone so they're not like, Judge was on the team for 18 no matter what. You're right. So that was a little word
associated. It's a Monday.
Yeah, I messed up twice already.
I'm freaking out.
That's
seeing Todd, and he smells delicious. So,
but hold on, I'm getting a call. Oh, hey, another note from Bob Nightingale is that he floated Luis Robert Jr., Garrett Crochet, and Michael Kopech in one deal with the Dodgers. The Dodgers have much more of a prospect cupboard than the Yanks right now. And so do the Orioles, of course, if they want to make that deal for a Crochet or if somehow Skubal were available. So, Dalton Rushing, Gavin Stone, Pages, maybe even at the major league level. Those are some of the names They've probably got 5 to 7 pitching prospects that are pretty highly regarded as well. I think if one of those guys is going to be available and those teams want them, it's still going to be a tough sell in my mind for the Yanks. Yanks are going to do something. I just don't know if they're going to get those two names if they're available. And then lastly, I want to sneak this one in. Bob said the Phillies don't want Jazz Chisholm and probably not Tommy Pham or Brent Rooker. So they must have like a very specific player in mind, Kratz.
Did you get that on the phone or that just came through on your text message there?
That was from reading.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think there's a lot to unpack there, but no. I don't think Jazz is a fit. Just different. I just think it's a different dynamic. Tommy Pham last year, I read an article last year about that the Phillies were kind of not looking at Tommy Pham, and I sit there and I go, okay, why not? I don't know if there's something with Dombrowski, if there's a teammate that Tommy Pham had, or if they just don't feel like what he gives them the success that they're looking for. If that's the case, Kevin Pillar, step right up. Right-handed bat, not a superstar, somebody that can platoon with Brandon Marsh. And I think that gives them also, if something happened with Rojas, a guy who has played center field in the big leagues. He hasn't played a ton of center field. That is not a huge center field. He can play left. Marsh can move over. Marsh can play center, or he can play center. And they brought up Weston Wilson, who's a right-handed hitter, if they want to have a right-handed heavy lineup. So that's where I see the Phillies going. I think that's why I said about the Yankees needing to pay a premium price, because if the Dodgers are in, I think they could pull a Crochet away. I don't think Skubal's available. I think they pull a Crochet away by giving them that large piece that, yes, the Dodgers have a lot. Dodgers are going to need to pay a lot for Luis Robert. So to me, I think the Yankees can pay that premium, but it's going to be a guy, like you said, Spencer Jones.
Mm-hmm. We'll see how it goes. We will see.
We will.
Only time will tell.
I want to get to some Braves trade talk, so we're going to step aside and bring in Grant McAuley, who knows everything there is to know about the Braves. He's going to join us coming up in just a sec. They had a brutal injury weekend, so we'll be right back to discuss that with Mr. McAuley.
The Braves only draft pitchers at this point, pretty much. But they keep figuring out ways to find guys to help them when they need help. Because Nacho Alvarez coming up to the big leagues to play second base with Ozzie Albies' injury. 5th rounder from 2022 out of a junior college. He's ended up being a lot better hitter, and I would also say a better fielder than maybe we expected when he was drafted. Alvarez has been one of the better hitters in AAA since he got promoted. But the thing that really jumped out to me is we'll see how he can handle a new position. But he was better at shortstop than I thought, better than I've heard, from scouts coming into this year. He actually has some body control, some awareness, that internal clock you need. You put it all together, he's going to have to learn a new position by playing second base, but second base probably is a good fit for him long term. And then you look as a hitter, he's just kind of a good, well-rounded, all-around hitter. This is a guy who makes good swing decisions, hits the ball reasonably hard, doesn't have massive power, hits for average, makes a lot of contact, just kind of does everything well enough to be a useful big leaguer, which is all the Braves need him to be as he comes up to fill in with Ozzie Albies out for the next, looks like 8 weeks. And I think that Alvarez looks like he might be capable of doing that right now.
Great stuff from JJ Cooper. Make sure you follow Baseball America and subscribe to the website, newsletter, the whole deal, okay? And he's got a great name, by the way, not just JJ, but the guy I was talking about, Nacho Alvarez, is going to come up. I also want to include Whit Merrifield signing a big league deal with the Braves, who were seeking him in the offseason. He ends up going to Philadelphia. He struggles there. We're going to talk more on the prospect side on Baseball America's Hot Sheet show tomorrow. If you want to join us 3 o'clock Eastern, we're just on with the FT YouTube crew for another minute. But any thoughts before we talk to Grant about those 2 moves? And then we'll obviously ask Grant as well.
Crazy that Whit's going to the Braves after being with the Phillies. I think it's – I don't necessarily think like he's going to go like 20 pumps in the second half, something like that. But he is a legit big league player, and he's going to help that team.
Yeah,
and he told us he struggled, Todd. Sorry, he told us he struggled about the part-time role with the Phillies. Like, he's not used to that.
A breath of fresh air, a new team, a team that has a chance to win it all every single year. And you got a young prospect coming up here, man. I mean, put him in there. Let's go. Let's have some fun.
All right, let's talk to Grant McAuley about it in 20 seconds. We're back on FT. We got to talk about the Braves towards the top of the show. It was a tough weekend for them on the injury front. Grant McAuley joining us right now. You can hear him on 92 The Game. He hosts from the Diamond. You know what, Grant? You do so many things around the Braves. Give us a good plug. I always go on your show and love doing it, but tell everyone where they can find your coverage.
Yeah, a little bit of everywhere. I do some writing for the Marietta Daily Journal, but I host my show on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. I've been lucky enough to have you guys come on and join me as well. I appreciate that as always. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. And I bump up a few other places, and I don't know. We might spend all of our time trying to figure out where I'm going to be next, but I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. Let's get to the crappy news first, and we'll do some Braves trade talk as well, and the Merrifield signing, the whole deal. But on the negative side, Max Fried down with what looks like a tricky nerve situation, an injury that popped up around the All-Star break. And then Ozzie Albies looks like he's going to be out for 8 weeks. Here's the tweet from you, which I'll read actually, and then get your response. One of the roughest days of the season. It's been anything but hospitable on the injury front for the Braves, of course, alluding to Strider and Acuna, guys like that going out for the year. Fried lands on the IL, followed by Albies, who could be the latest player facing a season-ending injury given the timing of his fractured wrist. But do you think, I'll start here, Albies does return at some point in September and then can help this team in the playoff run?
I know that's certainly his goal, and he has been a guy that has recovered quickly, healed quickly, but since he may not be Wolverine, I just feel like you have to look at the math. You got 10 weeks left in the regular season anyway, and they're saying 8 weeks is what they're estimating. So clearly the math could work out for him to be back, but at what strength will he be back? There won't be a minor league rehab assignment, I don't believe, at that point of any particular length because the minor league season is going to be over. So I'm just kind of curious how he responds to it. You can't rule it out. He already came back from a broken toe in April and did so inside of the 10 days he was on the injured list. So it's just one of those things where Ozzie just seems to be a magnet for these kind of things that have happened to him a couple of times in 2022. Again, here this year, 2 different fractures. And this one, to me, seems to be the most serious of the ones that he has suffered. And while I like hearing 8 weeks, I guess if you're looking for the silver lining of it, that he could come back, you just kind of have to wonder how quickly is he going to heal and at what strength will he be when he does return.
There will be a minor league season after that time because they pushed the minor league season. MLB now has to pay the minor leaguers more, so they're like, well, you have to play more. So they do go longer, but it doesn't matter because big leaguers don't take rehab assignments anymore. The Phillies, four of their guys never did any rehab, so who knows on that front. But can you look up? Do you know, is the sky falling in Atlanta because of what's happening to this fan base? And has this with Max Fried and Strider before this and Ozzie Albies and Acuna, has it become a situation where Braves fans are kind of giving up? Not the players. I know the players won't because they still have a ridiculously good team to do what they've been doing after they lost an MVP and Cy Young candidate. But have fans kind of given up on definitely catching the Phillies, but like winning a World Series this year?
I would say that there's definitely a vocal minority that has probably taken the sky is falling approach and possibly taken it a bit too far. But you can't write off the fact that the injuries that the Braves have suffered this year could change the expectations of even the most optimistic fan. You lose your opening day starter and prohibitive Cy Young favorite Spencer Strider after 2 starts. Within 2 months, you lose the reigning National League MVP. Michael Harris has spent significant time on the injured list as well. Sean Murphy missed a couple of months. Austin Riley missed a couple of weeks. And then you have the Fried and Albies doubleheader of injuries over the weekend. It's just the latest in a long line of injuries. And even the guys that they've brought in to help out have ended up getting hurt and not being effective. And it's hard to really do anything to counteract those kinds of losses because nobody's got the minor league system or the depth to deal with it. And then you can't really make a trade until the deadline. And at this point, you've got about 10 teams I counted in the National League wildcard race that could make a case to be either a seller or a buyer. So I don't really know if that's going to, yield what the Braves need to turn it around. But from a optimism standpoint, it's understandably taken a lot of hits this year with these injuries. But the Braves are a club that, as we know, in 2021, couldn't get over the 500 mark until early August. They went on to win the World Series. That doesn't mean it's going to happen again, but it should just let you know, as I'm sure you guys are well aware, baseball seasons, they aren't played on paper and they don't write themselves in that way. So you just kind of have to go out there, play the games and see if you get hot at the right time. And I don't think this is a club that's interested in entertaining the idea of selling, even if there is, again, a vocal minority on the internet that would love to see them trade away 3, 4, 5 guys and do a mini rebuild in the midst of a window of contention, which sounds ridiculous saying it out loud and probably ridiculous thinking about it.
So we won't even talk about a mini rebuild. We're going to talk about Alex Anthopoulos. Alex Anthopoulos makes moves. And until this weekend, with losing 2 key pieces, he was going to be a guy that was going to make big moves, and you just knew that based on his history with the Blue Jays and the Braves, and there have been successful moves. Does he draw that back a little bit because of what just happened?
I kind of look at it as, and there's no good time for an injury, but the fact that this did happen, the Fried and Albies news in consecutive, or in one day, but happening about a week to 10 days before the trade deadline, it gives him time to evaluate. If this happens in the first week of August and say he has already gone out and made the moves that he can make at the trade deadline, then you're kind of hung out to dry. You've got nowhere to go to try to make an impactful move at this point. But I would not rule that out. And the way that Alex has always talked about this throughout his time is if there is a chance to add and to make this club better, they're going to. They're just not going to willingly take a step back and send that message to that clubhouse. And they're not going to send it to the fan base that, hey, we're okay with losing this year. And it doesn't mean that they're choosing, just going all in on one year and sacrificing the future. There's a fine line to walk, and he'll be the first person to mention that and admit that as well. But I just don't see them, again, sending that kind of messaging with the talent that they've had. Even with the injuries, you've still got a club that, while it hasn't played great in the last couple of months, it's been a 500 club really since April. They're still 10 games over 500. They're still in the top seed of the wild card. And as we've seen the last few years, not just the Braves, you get into the wild card, you can make a run to the World Series. Stranger things have happened, and I don't think that the Braves are ready to write that off, and certainly Alex Anthopoulos is not.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it because this team is a team that can win with that no matter who it is. They still have the pitching and everything else. Now, my question to you, talk about Whit Merrifield. They got Nacho coming up as well, but what do you see him doing? Is he going to be a role player? Does he, I like the pickup just in the fact that he's been there before, but where do you see him playing? Do you see him playing a lot?
Yeah, I think that he has the opportunity to, and it may just kind of depend on the production, obviously. And then as you look at the Braves lineup, they have got a host of problems with production. The regression from the historic season they had last year to this year is beyond what I think anybody would have thought is reasonable. They've gone from a club that had a lineup that 1 through 9 would just scare most opposing pitchers to one that you can navigate through. If you can get around Austin Riley and get around Marcell Ozuna, nobody else has really been able to establish themselves. So there's opportunity, to make a long story short, for a guy like Whit Merrifield, whether that be at second base, whether he gets mixed into that outfield a little bit, that could certainly be possible. And I look at Nacho Alvarez as a guy that has great on-base skills, and that's exactly the kind of player that the Braves need right now. And it's not asking a 21-year-old to save your season, make up for the losses of Acuna, Albies, and others, but it is an opportunity to see if he can come up and help you out while you figure out what else you need before the trade deadline. They already brought back Eddie Rosario as well, who was not having a great time up in Washington, but has come up with a couple of key hits for the Braves in his return. So, again, I think there is opportunity there, but I don't think that they've settled it. I don't think that they've put all the pieces of the puzzle in place. And a lot of it is going to rest on the shoulders of Alex Anthopoulos over this next week to figure out how he can make this club substantially better. But Merrifield, certainly worth trying. And for him, I think it's an opportunity to jump on with a club that could be playing into October, and I'm sure he doesn't mind that.
Grant, I'll double down on the trade conversation. What's on your wish list? Are there specific player names in the outfield, say, that you'd like to see added to the mix here? Do you think they would explore the shortstop position as well, or there's really not much available that would help the upgrade with the bat for Arcia anyway?
I've definitely wondered about shortstop, and I think that most people's discussion has been, hey, if Arcia is struggling so much and Nacho Alvarez is a shortstop, why not try him there if he can give you a little bit more offensively? And a lot of that focus on Arcia has come from the fact that, hey, the rest of the lineup's not hitting either, so they're not covering up for the fact that he's having a tough time over the course of the first half here as well. So as far as shortstops, I don't really see anybody out there that seems like an immediate fit, an immediate upgrade. I don't know that Orlando Arcia was ever looked at as the starter no matter what for the Braves. They signed him to a very good contract to, I feel like, come in and play a role for this club, and he exceeded those expectations last year. But they could certainly revisit that, and Nacho Alvarez could be the first in the line of thought of at least trying something different. But Arcia has been good with the glove. I know it hasn't been as good lately, but either way, I do think he offers a lot there. Second base is a place that Nacho Alvarez hasn't really played, so bringing in Merrifield makes a lot of sense. But losing Fried, and I felt like this before this happened, if the Braves had a chance to add a starter that could make them significantly better, even though their pitching staff has been the reason why they have been able to maintain their spot in those standings right now, as far as the wild card is concerned, why not make yourself better there? Go out and see if you can try to find an impact arm, but who's going to be out there? I mean, I wish I had answers about that, but I still feel like all those wild card teams, mostly in the National League and a couple in the American League, that just kind of have to figure it out. This could very well be a seller's market from the way that I see it, but I could be wrong about that. But if I had to pick one player that, looking at the outfield, might be able to come in and make a difference and could be available, I think Randy Arozarena from the Tampa Bay Rays, if they decide to sell, could be a player that fits in on that short-term basis for the Braves, who certainly have their outfield locked in for 2025 and beyond.
Oh, I would love to see Randy Arozarena play for the Atlanta Braves. I think that would be an awesome fit. That's a great call. And I think realistic, too. He's a year-to-year guy, right? He hasn't been signed up long-term to a Tampa Bay Rays extension. So I do think he's going to be somewhat heavily shopped if the Rays, have a rough week and a half. So I like that name. Grant, awesome to have you. Appreciate the time. We'll post some of these clips for our fans watching so you can follow Grant on Twitter and get a hold of everything else that he's got going on show-wise. Grant, thanks for the time.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. All right, FT fam, we will be right back. We'll hit better than box scores coming up in just a moment. And Ty France was actually put on waivers. We'll touch on that. All right, everyone watching on YouTube right now, time to give a little love to AG1. They've been a longtime sponsor for us over the summer months. So drinkag1.com/foul is the code. I'll let you know what that gets you in just a moment. But Kratz, have you been traveling with your travel packets?
Oh, 100%. I'm almost out of my travel packets. I think I have 3 more, but I think my next travel is coming at the end of this week, so it's only like 3 or 4 days, so I think I'll be good. But what I love about it, my kids, for some reason, when they're taking like multivitamins or the things that like help, just like supplementing their health, I'm like, can you guys please just take it? And they're like, can I just have an AG1? I'm like, yeah. Some reason, like, it's sitting in the fridge, at top of the fridge, and they just scoop it into their shaker. I don't know if they feel like they're a boss with it, but anytime I can get my kids to use it, I'm like, perfect.
There you go. AG1 contains ingredients that support sustained energy so you can be the best version of yourself each and every day. And also, like Kratz mentioned, if you've been messing around with a million different multivitamins and all that, and it's just annoying and confusing, you don't have to do that anymore. It's a foundational nutrition supplement that supports your body's universal needs like gut optimization. That's big for me, stress management, immune support. And since 2010, they've led the future of foundational nutrition, continuously refining their formula to create a smarter, better way to elevate your baseline health. Let's go over the code. If you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. You can get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and those travel packs. You get 5 of them with your first purchase if you use the website drinkag1.com/foul. Again, that's drinkag1.com/foul. FT fam. We'll be right back. Yeah, it's better than box scores. Let's get you caught up from the weekend. Kratz, you're going to like this. I'm starting with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Taking a series this weekend against the Phillies. They won 2 out of 3. They had the nice walk-off comeback win on Friday. Their only lead was, on the last pitch of the game. And suddenly this team's won 8 of 11, I think 6 of 7. All the good numbers. Very close to wild card striking distance. A lot of partying and celebrating in Pittsburgh. Some pretty good pitching. Not enough offense to be a playoff team in my mind this year. But wait, if only there were an opportunity to trade some assets for a bat or two, this is the time. Pirates fans have been waiting for a long time. There's especially a clear-cut need in my mind for at least one outfield bat, preferably a center fielder. Get it done. Please. Get it done for your fans. I listened to Jim Duquette and Jim Bowden the other day on Sirius. Bowden's going to join our show, I think, on Monday. But Duquette said he was hearing that there's not a lot of financial flexibility for them to make a deal. And I almost fainted. He's pretty tied in with certain orgs. And he was like, they'll probably do something, but they're worried about the finances. And I just started melting into my chair.
That's sad for baseball. Maybe they could get like a stipend or something, or some money from like one of the larger market teams that make a lot of money. Oh wait, they already do. So now it's time to actually spend that money.
Exactly.
It's time to, the reason it's time is because I got called up for my first time ever around this time 14 years ago. And the summer in Pittsburgh, the fans start coming out, and they came out this weekend. Was there a lot of Philly fans? Absolutely. Easy 4.5-hour drive. Boom, you're at the stadium. Best view of any stadium in the league. So there's a lot of Phillies fans. I get that. They will pack this place out. You make a move. They had all these fans. Skeens didn't even pitch this weekend. Like, Skeens is your main attraction, but he is also an almost automatic win in game 1 of the playoffs. What bat does it for you? What bat, if the Diamondbacks say, all right, we slid here, we're out of it,
no,
we want to get something for Christian Walker. Not going to do it. I get it. I understand. But then you have to look at the rest of the available Christian Walker types of bats.
They're not getting a first baseman. Outfield.
Okay.
Can I throw names at you? Tell me if
Please.
You guys get excited.
Please.
Okay. Jazz Chisholm. Lane Thomas.
Continue.
Brent Rooker.
Brent Rooker hasn't played the outfield all season.
I understand, but
is he going to step in your DH?
No, he would be more of your DH.
Luis
guy.
Robert.
Oh yeah, now we're really talking. But then
does
money.
Luis
money.
Robert change it? Does Luis Robert push this team to the playoffs? And to me, that is what you have to look at.
Yes. Of course he does. Yes. He pushes them to the playoffs. And FT fam in the chat right now, and also if you're not part of the YouTube fam, make sure you get involved either while you're watching. You can chat with us. I read responses. It is youtube.com/@foulterritory show. Hit a little subscribe. Help me out here, YouTube fam. What do the Pirates need? Give me
They
some
need to
outfield
spend
bats.
money. That's what they need to do.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
But it's different in mid-season here. You can use your prospects to get
Yes.
a player that makes sense. You can even get a team to buy down on some money. I would love to see Robert, but if they're saying that they don't want to take on a lot of payroll during the season, I don't know the exact numbers. I'll look it up while you guys are talking, but he costs money. That's real money right there for Luis Robert.
Randy Arozarena is not going to cost a lot of money. There's still control, but my fear with a control bat like that is they'll turn around. Like, they need somebody that's going to be off the books for next year. And Arozarena, I think, he'll definitely be making over $10 million, which until it was the threshold, to me, I don't know. I don't know that Arozarena does it in the sense that he pushes them into the playoffs like clearly Luis Robert does more than what Arozarena does.
Yeah, we got to be careful about health too as well. So that's another thing. It's
no doubt.
The factors, they don't make moves, and that's the biggest problem, whether it's spending money or making trades or picking guys up.
But who is it? We can always bag on the Pirates for not spending money. And I know the generosity of the ownership is good outside of the field, but payroll is a real issue. What is the move? What is the actual move that's available out there for the Pirates to make?
I don't know.
The ones you just said.
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys they could pick up. They got the prospects. Like, people love prospects. In my old school ways, I'm not a big fan of prospects. So if I was a GM, you want a prospect from me, you're going to give me someone established. Let's go. I'm up for that.
Especially when you have, to me, a team that's not just going to make the playoffs. With Jared Jones coming back, hopefully, that is a 1-2-3. Bednar in the back of the bullpen. Aroldis Chapman was filthy against the Phillies. He absolutely shut it down this weekend. So to me, the way that the bullpen succeeded this weekend, I don't think they're a better team than the Phillies. But if you line up Skeens, Jones, and Keller,
how fun of a games would that be?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my.
Just a little more offense, though.
I might even go to the game. I can't stand
That's a drive for you. That's a drive.
He doesn't like
I need a little more offense, though. What's wrong with a Lane Thomas or a Taylor Ward then? If if Robert's too expensive.
Good, not great. Good, not great.
Okay.
There's not a problem. Not a problem with it at all.
Not a problem.
It's an upgrade. I think that's great. I shouldn't have said good, not great. It's an upgrade. Make them freaking move. Yeah. Make something like, dude, all right, the fans did this. We got rid of Joe Thomas, whoever the heck, whatever it is. A random dude. Go ahead, get rid of him. Just make a move for the better of your team.
Newsflash, Todd doesn't like prospects. Okay,
there you
go. Let's get to the
AL
AL
like
West.
Them, I don't love them.
Right, I understand, and you got to push. And
that.
you are right on this front. Most deals, when you look back, you don't regret them. It's true. You do the trade rewind, and you look back, and you're like, I don't even remember who that is. Who's that? Not always the case. And we point out the ones that go the other way, right? Where you do give away back at the time, a Tatis for Shields when that first went down, his first few years in the bigs before getting busted for PEDs, people were like, how do you do that? Those trades don't come around very often.
No, there's been exceptions. And I think of and I don't mean to be salty on my end, but I think of the trade when I got traded from the Reds to the White Sox. I mean, how many of those guys can you remember in those trades?
How about Garrett Cole?
But I'm not saying I had an exceptional years afterwards. I did okay, but you don't remember any of those guys.
Look up Garrett Cole from the Pirates to the Astros. I don't think anybody's doing anything there anymore in Pittsburgh. So anyway, they need offense. Key Brian Hayes is a stud at third base on defense. He is not hitting. Henry Davis has struggled. And if you look at the bats, there are holes to fill there. I'm feeling good about the pitching. Anyway, good little chat about the Pirates. Let's get to the Astros and the Mariners. That was probably the biggest series of the weekend. You have the two top teams in the American League West. I was almost going to say least.
No, you were right. That was right. The American League.
It's not a bad call. It's definitely been a down division this year, but they're starting to pick up the pace. Mariners desperately need bats. They'll get one. I have faith in Jerry.
How about them Astros, man? Incredible.
How about that is right. In 1 month's time, they go from 10 games back to first place right now by basically a hair of a percentage point. They're basically tied for first place right now, but they win the first couple games in this series. Julio Rodriguez got hurt yesterday, although they're saying he's okay. The imaging was negative and all that, so he's day to day. That's good news. One other thing news-wise, and then we can do anything you want on the series. Ty France has been placed on outright waivers. So if a team picks him up, he is gone. That's how waivers works. He is making close to $7 million this year. So do the math. It's probably about 3-ish left at this point. If you want someone like that, because the Mariners are ready to move on and go younger at this point. If you look at the offensive production for Ty France, unfortunately, it's been a good chunk of time since he's been a big contributor to the team. They have a replacement for him at first. This is not a money dump. Kratz will be the first people to point stuff like that out, but they've got Locklear to replace him now.
They better start. They better make a move here, man. They better. This is another team that needs to figure it out. They got the pitching. We've talked about this numerous times. These guys can outright pitch. They got a good bullpen. They got guys that can pitch. They need to score runs. And now one of their big dogs, who hasn't had the best year, but he's an impact bat. You put him in a lineup, the pitcher's always going to be talking about Julio Rodriguez. Like, all right, we got to make sure we get this guy out. I don't care what he's batting or what he's been doing. They need to go out and find somebody. I don't know who it is, but they got to do it. Jerry, Tom's River guy, DePoto, let's go, bro. Figure it out. It's about that time. You know what to do.
Jerry will make a trade.
Yes.
One of the things that we always talk about is, Cardinals, this guy got away. The Zach Gallen, the Arozarena, the Adolis Garcia, all these guys got away. And now they're at a spot again where it's like, who can we go get? I just spent some time on a St. Louis radio station. Why not give Jordan Walker a new visit to a new stadium where he doesn't have to hit a ton of home runs yet. He can learn to hit for power, but he can actually get on base. A team that doesn't get on base with the Mariners. He can come in and make a trade for Brian Wu, one of their starting depth. I'm not saying it's going to be Wu. I'm saying it's somebody in their system. Now the Cardinals pick up that piece, and hopefully that upgrades this offense for the Mariners that's struggling, because this was a great series, but the Mariners had a chance to win it if they just, I don't even want to say like pushed runs across, got guys on base. I think they have like a, I had it, but I think they had like a 301 on base percentage as a team, something like that. Like, it's not enough. It's not enough. Whether you drive runs in or not, if you're never on base, if you never figure out how to stop striking out and get on base, you're not going to beat the Astros, who basically had Hunter Brown, and to me, they were primed for picking, and they only got 2 out of 3.
Yeah, there was some sick defense in that Saturday game too. The Houston comeback 4-2 win, Trey Cabbage and Loper Fido in the corners. I love that idea. It's interesting. I like your idea in the offseason better. I don't see them trading away Wu during the season. And also, Jordan Walker's not really hitting in the minors right now. So you're going to call him back up and be like, this is our savior in a year where we could win a World Series. This is our savior on offense. I think it's an offseason move. I need an established major league bat that's hitting right now. For me, that's me.
Yeah.
I like the idea. I think they need big leaguers. So anyway, yeah, props to the Astros on the other side from 12-24 to first place. I was listening to Dana Brown talk to some media this weekend. Sounds like they'll go after starting pitching first, maybe a first baseman. It does sound like they're interested. It just has to be the right guy. But anyway, Things can change fast, though. Were you surprised about Ty France? I mean, it's not terrible this year. He's slightly below average. He's not a great defender. He's a 94 OPS plus. It's not hitting for a lot of pop. The on-base percentage is kind of low this year. Seattle's ballpark, obviously, has been a disaster for most bats and for their offense, so it doesn't look as bad on the stat like an OPS plus or a way to runs created plus to put you where average is, but it's not good enough for first base.
It's not. That's a tough stadium. I mean, but I have a tough time when a guy is a big league all-star. I always think he's going to get it back. Mm-hmm. He's going to figure it out. I mean, Ty France, could he be claimed by the Pirates? Could he be? Is he a platoon? You know, we just talked about
the Astros.
That's in my head. Oh man, in division.
See, if I'm owning a team, that is my move right now.
You're just trolling it.
It's not totally trolling, though. He's actually probably an upgrade for them at first base. Him and Singleton playing some first. I actually don't think it's a bad idea. Maybe I'm crazy. Someone might smash me for that. But they do need some first base help. This is free. This just costs you a little bit of dough.
Crawford boxes.
But he can go oppo.
Yeah.
He can go, I mean, that short swing. I mean, listen, like they're evaluating these players at such a high degree. Teams know, hey, you know what? We can find a value in him. We can get this, we can unlock this. I think of the Phillies picking up Brandon Marsh for Logan Ohtani at the trade deadline. A playoff team that picked up Brandon Marsh in 21, kind of a defensive guy, got rid of a prospect, but the Angels didn't they got a starting catcher in Logan Ohtani who was killing it in Double-A. But the reason they picked him up was because their hitting coach, Kenny Long, was able to unlock some things. He had like a one-path swing, and he was able to unlock extreme value in a trade that kind of looked like a defensive trade. Oh, cool, he'll be a piece in the outfield kind of thing. Not sure if he'll ever hit, to a dude that's hitting almost 300 against right-handed pitching right now.
All right, so let's do this. We'll keep the trade talk going. Obviously, plenty more to cover on that front. But when we swing back, we'll get a little bit from Ken Rosenthal's Fair Territory that was released today, and then also talk about his very detailed article on how Shohei Ohtani's inner circle operates. That's next.
Have you heard about this new taco that's been released?
I saw it yesterday. It's an interesting one.
Let me read it to you. Hot dog wrapped in cheeseburger quesadilla, topped with barbecue brisket, fries, lettuce, onions, sriracha, Cracker Jacks, and 816 sauce. I mean, talk to me about a belly buster. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, I mean, good luck to your stomach after eating that one.
$25 for that big boy. What do you think? How many you take down? A couple?
I don't even think I want to see that in person, if I'm being honest. Like, I just want to let that stay in the concourse. I hope they don't bring any of those down to the clubhouse, because if they do, I'm going to have to eat one, and I'd like to stay as far away from that as possible. I hope the fans really enjoy that. Did you guys see Colorado also came out with a meatball ice cream something?
No, stop.
No.
Yeah, there's something. Yeah, it's like some ice cream with meatballs or something.
No,
the teams are getting real creative with what they're doing. If people buy it, that's all that matters. It's all
that sounds like Big Daddy, Kratz. remember that line? He's like, it's like tuna fish. What is it?
Peanut butter and gumballs. Yeah.
Peanut butter and gumballs. That's what the guy with the crazy eyes says. Yeah. He says like lamb and tuna fish salad. Oh no, he says spaghetti and tuna fish. It goes together like spaghetti and tuna fish. But hey, Vinny, hang on one sec now. They bring that down to the clubhouse. Let's say you're 0 for 8. They bring it down.
I'm eating. Yeah, if that's what it takes, I'm taking that thing down.
Now you have an adverse effect that night from the Sriracha Cracker Jacks, which I didn't even know they made Sriracha Cracker Jacks, but they do. And you get 4 knocks that night, but then post game, you're not feeling good, okay? Do you eat it again the next day for 4 more knocks, but damage post game?
Yeah, 100%. Not even thinking twice about it. I'll wear that any day of the week for 4 hits.
For how long?
As long as it takes, to be honest. Probably the whole year. If that's what I got to go through.
They're going to call him Babe Ruth if he keeps going like that.
Or something, and just really work on that. And, yeah, if I could get 4 hits every night, there's a lot of things I would do for 4 hits every night.
Agreed.
Hot corner time. Ken Rosenthal, our FT senior insider, is going to help us out with this one. So he hosted Fair Territory today. You can check that out after the show. And that's on YouTube, on our Foul Territory channel, or wherever you get your podcasts. So Ken was breaking down the Yankees and the Orioles at the trade deadline, and we'll give you a little piece of the show, especially if you're watching on Bally Sports or Marquee right now and you haven't seen the show. This is what you get with Ken.
You have only one guaranteed year of Juan Soto. It's this year. Now, yes, the Yankees probably are one of the favorites to sign him, but they have no idea whether they're going to be the team. Scott Boras is taking Juan Soto to the market, and he's going to try to get the best deal possible, and he doesn't care where it comes from. Doesn't have to be the New York Yankees. And Soto doesn't care either. Remember, he turned down $440 from the Nationals over 15 years. He wants maximum dollars. So you're sitting there. You're in that position. You've got to go. Aaron Judge is going to be good for several more years, I would expect. He's not going to be great forever. With Cole, yes, you can keep him beyond this year with that funky option that he has, and that'll work out fine, I'm sure. But he's getting older. He had an injury this year. So, yes, this is a time not to empty the farm system necessarily, but certainly to be aggressive in addressing holes. And there's another team in a similar position. The team in their division that they're competing with for the AL East title, the Orioles. Now, they're going to be good for many years. They've got young players coming out of everywhere. But this is their one guaranteed year with Corbin Burnes, and I would suggest that the Orioles stand less of a chance of signing Burnes than the Yankees do of signing Soto. Now, I know some Oriole fans are saying, well, we've got a new owner. Yeah, I know you've got a new owner, and he's going to spend, but Baltimore is not the same size market as New York, and Burnes is represented by, guess who? Scott Boras, who again is going to seek maximum dollars for Corbin Burnes.
Fair Territory, Mondays and Thursdays. Thursdays are live on FT YouTube. If you have a question for Ken, this is the time of year to ask him. 12:30 Eastern time. You can catch him on Thursday with Alana Rizzo hosting the show live, or wherever you get your podcast, you can catch it afterward. But good stuff from Ken. Any thoughts there? I mean, I think that makes sense. Those two teams need to go hard. They have clear-cut problems to solve. I think it's easier for Baltimore. They have a lot more to be able to sell in terms of prospects. They don't have space for some of their prospects that are in the upper level of the minor leagues. And I think it's obvious that they're going to go after both a starter and a high leverage reliever. I think it's trickier with the Yanks. I know we talked about them at the top of the show. Like, Glaber's not hitting, but are you going to replace him? You know, the infield's a little trickier to me.
Yeah, to me, they both have the high end prospect. The Orioles have better prospects, just a dearth of prospects. I think the move that's got to be made is got to be for a Spencer Jones or a Jackson Holiday type of move. And whoever makes that move, especially since they're in the same division, they're going to be going head to head the rest of the year unless the Yankees can't turn this thing around, which it has to be turned around with the group that's there. That's who's going to win it. This trade deadline will win the American League East.
One thing you cannot be afraid of is to send a prospect who all of a sudden they think is going to be the next upcoming to a team for somebody, and this is probably the third time I said it, for somebody that's been established. You can do that And guess what? He might be a really good player for that team, but you're getting somebody that's also going to be a really good player for you as well. Also, you got to put the health into it. Somebody might get injured. This game seems like injuries happen a lot more than they do in the past. Like it seems one week, one day, there's somebody always getting hurt. You got to play for now, and that's just the way I know baseball. It's not, oh, we got a 5-10-year plan. I hate that. I absolutely can't stand it. All these guys have money. All these guys can trade away everybody. Nobody's protected unless you have it in your contract or your clause or you played a certain amount of time. Everybody is on the table. That means from, in the minor leagues, don't be afraid to trade those guys.
All right, now I'm going to completely flip the page to something else that Ken talked about on the show. And this is a different topic, but a good one for the player perspective on Shohei Ohtani. He took a lot of time in doing more background research on what's called the insular relationships that protected Shohei Ohtani until they didn't. And you can see Ohtani, his former interpreter, Ipe Mizuhara, who's a criminal, who stole a lot of money from Shohei. And then Ohtani's agent, Nez Bolello, he's been his agent since he came over to the United States. And you can see in the article that Nez is definitely spending even more time with Ohtani. And it sounded like it was a tricky situation where Ohtani wanted his one bank account to be private, one of the bank accounts. And if you're an agent, you're like, yeah, I don't want to lose this player, but this sounds shady, but I don't know what to do. You can see that in the article. I wanted to get your thoughts. I mean, I learned a lot in this one. Ken said an industry source briefed on his earnings turned down the Sportico report in March that estimated he was making $65 million a year just on endorsements. Ken's source said $100 million plus per year on endorsements for Shohei Ohtani. I mean, he's the face of sports in Japan. $100 million plus. That one stood out to me. The Doc Roberts comment, he has blossomed. He's become way more independent, way more open, which is ironic given that the person he trusted most deceived him. We've seen his true personality come out. I think with that, he's happier than he's ever been. It sounded like someone was very, very controlling. Like anything had to go through Ipe, essentially, even just an ask for a simple autograph. And there were a ton of no's. And Ken even alluded to the fact that the Angels didn't know if he was getting the requests, even the small ones, because it would often go through either agent and or interpreter. And still interpreter was the boss, essentially, because he's the only one that could translate from English to Japanese. And so whatever he said when he had a private combo with Ohtani, he'd come back out and be like, yeah, this is what Ohtani said. Now, Nez Bolello, who's the agent for Ohtani, has really taken control. And he is a very known as kind of a helicopter agent as well, kind of controls everything. He told the Dodgers the other day that he's not going to do any more pregame media sessions. So what did you guys learn from this one?
Well, first, when you said it, the $65 million and plus on it, so I guess that's after taxes. He took home $65 million. That's the first thing I thought of. Like, listen, that's he might have given you the exact amount he got at the end instead of. Listen, it's an incredible amount of money. I mean, just for endorsements. I think Rob Gronkowski said he never spent any money that he made from contracts. It was always off the field money and stuff like that, which is incredible. And the guy, if he can make all that, he deserves it all. And I feel like there's going to be more stuff that comes out from this. Ken's a great insider, but was he working with other people? And this is all just, we don't know. Was he I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff that could come out from this whole thing. He went home. He had an apartment in the parking lot. It says in this article, like, what was he really doing? Like, was he just a lonely guy, or was he, trying to do other things with Shohei behind his back? So there's still more pieces to this puzzle, in my opinion.
I think it's sad to hear that he was very sheltered, because we heard how much he was not very available to the media in Anaheim. And granted, he was busy, and we kind of took that as like, okay, he doesn't want to be available. But if a criminal takes money from you, I have a hard time believing, well, that was the only thing that he was taking. That was the only thing that he was manipulating. Like, if he's bringing in $100 million per season, anywhere from 65 to 100 million, and you have somebody taking your money from you, you have full trust. You have full trust from Mizuhara. And you look at it from what kind of player he was in Anaheim to what he is now. Is this a relief for him, and that's why he's continuing to improve? Is it just because he's not pitching that he's having such a good season? Only time will tell, but I really feel bad for Shohei if he was deceived that much, but I feel great for him that now he is more relaxed, and Doc said he's blossomed. So I think it's something that we've never seen, but somehow we still don't have all the information yet, but more and more come out every single day. The article, I want to finish the article. I haven't read the rest of it yet.
The article's great. It's just excellent insight. And yeah, you do continue to understand the situation and feel bad, like you said, Kratz, for a player that couldn't communicate with everyone. And he is learning English. He's getting better on that front, but he's not fluent. And when you have someone that's like, I got it, and he's telling you everything, I don't know what else you're supposed to do. And he became such a vital component of his life. I mean, he did everything. You know, Doc was even talking about how he's got to ride his own car now. You know, he's got to drive his own car, Ohtani. Like, Ippei did everything for him. I know you got something. The quote that also stood out was how he wasn't involved with anything team-wise either. And I don't think that was Ohtani's choice, but like, they didn't even ask him fantasy football, anything, right? Fun with the team to all do together. And they said also on the betting side, they're like, he couldn't even ID Patrick Mahomes. This dude does not care about anything but baseball and a little bit of video games. The quote was, all he cared about was playing his video game on his phone. This was from an Angels person. Most of the people that Ken spoke with were obviously anonymous, so they could speak freely. And then the Angels person said, and then it was baseball. So that was it. But I don't think the asks actually got over to him.
That's a fair assessment too. If you've ever been to another country, and not just on vacation, you know, they cater to you, you're on a ship. Oh, hey, you know, make sure you take care of this. You're living in a country that you do not know the language fluently. You are reliant on your interpreter. When we lived in the Dominican for essentially about 8 weeks, just a little under 8 weeks, I was fortunate. I knew Spanish. My wife knew Spanish. It was still hard. And so that assimilation into the environment that you're in is so tough. And now think about doing it in the big leagues. And you are trusting that interpreter. I didn't drive when I was in the DR, so I understand this. I don't understand it from a multi-hundreds of millions of dollars standpoint. I understand it in a person, people-to-people standpoint. You have to trust your interpreter. Hey, I want to get tickets to my family. Oh, okay, we'll make sure we get tickets. Like, you're trusting that kind of stuff. And then there's $100 million mixed in a year. You have to trust them with that too.
All we have is trust. And I think you, Scott, myself, and others can understand, like, that's the biggest thing. Family, friendships, and trust when it comes to people. And when you're walking on eggshells or you're like in between, you always got to go with your gut. And that's something I've always learned. Like, if my gut's telling me something's wrong, maybe I'd tell somebody else. But maybe he was in that circumstance where he did trust him a little too much. You know, he didn't really look at the bank statements too often. And the guy did what he pleased. And that's the saddest part.
You know what I think about from the offseason? Our conversation with former Rockies GM Dan O'Dowd. He joined us on FT around when, you know, I think Ohtani was either about to sign or it might have been right after he had signed. And he pointed out a weirdness with the Angels that you didn't truly understand at the time, but it makes more sense now. He was like, we have to get away from it being one and the rest in the clubhouse. Yep. And that's the culture that was created in Anaheim. At the time, the Angels probably caught too much flack for that, when really the biggest problem was his right-hand man. I'm not saying that there's no blame on the team side, but a lot of the blame is a team that didn't know how to handle a superstar player who comes from another country, and you're getting essentially miscommunication from a dude who's a total fraud, as in his interpreter.
And also, again, so people can understand if they heard who's the one that picks these interpreters.
Well, Ohtani did in this. Sometimes it's the team. This time Ippei, the former interpreter, got himself involved early on. They met each other when Ippei was overseas as a translator or an interpreter for some American players in Japan.
He also lied about that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He lied about everything.
It's tough.
His resume was full of crap. And in this story, Ken said they did background checks. The Angels did. And also there was some blame put on, Ohtani's agent. They're like, how do you let this dude do the private bank account? Like I mentioned, you're worried about losing him. He keeps telling you, I want my own private bank account. And then they had a separate one too. But you see in this story, there were multiple checks that tried to get through to him, even for tax purposes. Cause they're like, hey dude, I understand you want some things to be private, but we need to see this so that we can report it accurately for tax purposes. So a bookkeeper that was employed by Ohtani's agent expressed concern about tax liability. A financial advisor sought more info for an investment profile. An accountant wanted to make sure he was filing the proper returns. And they said Ippei, his former interpreter, told them all the same thing. He wants this particular account to be private. Do not disturb him about this. What were they supposed to do? It's not technically their right to just crack open his account. They can only advise him and say, hey, dude, this could be a problem. We're letting you know. And he was like, cool, gotcha. Still my private account. But really, he wasn't saying that.
He wasn't saying it. Ippei was saying it. So it makes it's bringing more things into light and kind of getting the Angels off the hook a little bit in the sense that how can you let a guy never talk? Well, maybe Ippei was never giving him the messages. Ippei was always trying to stay on the side. I mean, it is a crazy dynamic that you didn't think you'd see.
But it's easy to get away with the language, guys. That's the thing.
Yeah,
not easy, but it's much easier to get away with the language.
Even if they went deep, Ippei, but hey, listen, I don't trust what's going on. Ask him in Japanese about this secret bank account, and he could be like. He could tell them in Japanese, they just want to make sure everything's okay, how you living. Like, he can easily go on around the truth if there's nobody else that can interpret Japanese. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Yeah, how'd you guys do with teammates that required an interpreter? I mean, probably even more so for you, Kratz, because you probably had to catch some guys where you weren't totally understanding what they were saying. I know, you can get down to the basics, but did you guys have any teammates that you wanted to communicate more with but couldn't because of the language barrier?
No. The interpreters, and maybe I was naive too. I was naive with the interpreters.
No, you weren't.
I went out of my way to learn more about Nori Aoki, learn more about Masahiro Tanaka. Great dudes. They're interpreters. Awesome. Shingo, Masahiro Tanaka's interpreter. I still keep in touch with him. He's Yu's interpreter, Yu Darvish's interpreter. And you go out of your way to make those relationships. I never once was like, man, I wish I could really get my feeling across or get my, send a message to Masa or send a message to Nori. I totally could. There was never one situation where I was like, man, I wouldn't trust this guy. And maybe that's naive by me. I don't mind being naive and trusting people ahead of time, but I would have done the same thing with Shohei.
Last piece of the puzzle, and then we'll go. How do you prevent this from happening in the future? That's the only thing. I always think about that. We have all these interesting scandals in baseball or problems like the injuries for arms, but it's tough to come up with a solution. Could the same thing happen again? Probably. If you have a superstar and everyone's a little bit afraid of him and there's one right-hand man who's controlling, everyone's probably seen a music flick where you're following, Elton John or Queen or one of those dudes, and they've got a bad person by their side, and they're just kind of wrecking stuff. Just saying, it's tough to monitor it.
Yeah, just keep everything written down. Go with them to the bank. Have somebody. It's tough.
I don't think you can prevent this as a team. If you're talking about as a team,
yes, as a team, like the league, what can they do?
Background checks. How much can you background check a guy? You're background checking players. You're background checking employees, and Ippei was a employee of the team. But you can't just assume somebody's bad. I don't know. I don't know It's possible you can get duped again.
Yeah. My only idea is that you can't actually set anything in stone, but you can look back at this case as an example for future players and say, this happened in the past. I love your interpreter to death if you have someone that's this close to you, but let's put a few of the really big things on Google Translate so you have a copy of this conversation. It'll be all kept private, but we're talking about your bank account. We just want you to have this. Here it is, all in English and translated in Japanese. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I'm not telling you what to do. Just want this here so you can see this. It's the only thing.
That's a lot. That's a lot of documents. No way did Todd ever read every single page of his contract when he signed it. Or his, like, you trust the people when they're like, initials here, here, sign here. We do it all the time.
And I don't know the word usage either for mostly all that thing anyway. That's why they go to school for all that stuff.
Right, and you kind of trust them.
You have to.
And we're in a different realm. Professional sports is a different realm. They're making tons of money. And Shohei is at the top of that class.
Okay, so if you watch this afterward, right? If you're catching this afterward and you're seeing it on YouTube, let us know in the comments if you have some ideas and thoughts about this. Drop a little comment if you made it this far. All right. Let us break. We're going to talk to Sam Blum soon. We can ask him about this. He covered Ohtani for years with the Angels. He's got trade talk for us, and we have injury suck next. One more on the trade conversation. It's more buy sell. So a few names of teams have been thrown out there from our fans. I'll pick two: the Cubs and the Diamondbacks. What do you think those two teams will be interested in doing over the next couple of weeks? And obviously, how much does the next couple of weeks play into that? I'll try and put this in a vacuum. Let's say both of those teams play a drop over 500 over the next 2 weeks. Like what? Let's say there's 12-ish games for them, and they go 7-5.
I think both will stay pat or make slight improvements. The Diamondbacks are going to stay pat. They like to get another reliever, but they're not going to trade anybody. Hey, everybody in the world would love to have Christian Walker. I still think might be the most underrated player in the game. He's an unbelievable first baseman. Should win his third Gold Glove this year. But I think they think they have a chance to do what they did a year ago, particularly having Gallen just come back. You're going to have Montgomery back, Eduardo Rodriguez, Merrill Kelly. In the Cubs, I think they're sitting in the fence. I think this is a big weekend. They play the Diamondbacks this weekend for, I think, 4 games. But I think that will, do the course. If they think they don't have a realistic chance to make the playoffs, then I think you're definitely going to see Tyon be traded.
And a fan base that is trying to tolerate the way they've been treating it lately, and they're enjoying the run. The Boston Red Sox. Comic asked, what do you think the Red Sox will do? I'll add to this because we talked about this topic yesterday. Craig Breslow wasn't full force with his comment about what they would do at the deadline. It made fans a little bit concerned that they weren't going to give it their best and try to make this team a contender this year.
I think they'll go get their starter for sure. I don't think they're going to surrender. The fan base would go ballistic, and they surrender. Zero chance of Alex Cora coming back if they do that. I think they'll get try to get a guy like if he's available, a Jameson Taillon from the Cubs, or certainly Erik Fetty's available from the Chicago White Sox. But I think they're going to get some reinforcements here. They got a tough schedule here coming out of the break. I think 7 games are against the Yankees, Dodgers, and Seattle. But no, I see them doing something and trying to get in. And they're one of the biggest surprises in baseball right now.
Injuries do indeed suck. If you're looking for the Braves injury news on Fried and Albies, it was already covered with Grant McAuley. You can either scroll back later if you're watching this show or on demand or on your TV, or if you're listening to the pod, we'll post that Grant McAuley conversation. Let's start with Josiah Gray. We'll stay in the National League East. He's done for the season. He only made 2 starts this year. Great kid. Great breakout season for him last year. It's a partial tear of the UCL, whether it's Tommy John or in the internal brace, which they've been doing more of these days. It sucks. A 3.91 ERA last year, 1.09 ERA plus. This was a guy that could slot in as at least a mid-rotation starter for the Nationals, and looks like he was going to kind of continue to progress. That'll happen. You're just going to have to wait a minute now for the Nationals. But we get the news the other day that he's done for the rest of the season. And the Nats are selling. They're actually at this point, I think, just as closer in the same window really as the Cubs, the Reds, etc. It's just that the Nats have actually already made it clear with the Hunter Harvey trade that they are not pursuing the postseason this year. So this does not help.
It'll happen. That's what Scott said. It'll happen. You get hurt, you get an injury, like it'll happen. My thing is like it's tough that this happened the second start of the year, I think. It was.
Yeah, he made 2 starts, and then that was it.
Now you're pushing it to.
Yeah.
Now you're pushing it. He may not come back next season. I that might be doom and gloom of me, but internal bracing, I guess, is less. But either way, you're talking about tomorrow. I guess he's having surgery tomorrow, and he's tomorrow to next year. So it's a full month. It's a full calendar year right now, and so it's confusing to me why they waited so long. I know they probably exhausted all opportunities to try to get back.
No, that's ridiculous. I don't know why they waited this long, man. We'll try this, we'll rehab this, we'll strengthen this side, whatever they do. Like, don't you know what it is when you see it through the thing? I don't know. Partial UCL tear. I can't even say it. UCL tear. That's a tear, dude. Like, you got to get that fixed.
But I think some of us have tears. Like,
yeah,
I know I have a tear.
He's a pitcher. Like, that's going to get worse.
Yeah, that's my thing.
I don't know. If I'm him, I'm pissed off. Now he's going to have to get the surgery, wait another year. I don't know. They're 4 games out right now. I don't know what they're going to do. Well, actually, Scott, you did tell us, but 4 games ain't much in the wild card race. So
no, you're right. They just decided already, like we're not in this year. I think they are going to actually spend some money this offseason and give it a go. But the thing that happens with pitchers in the UCL tear situation is that it's still a thing to try and rest, rehab. Sometimes they do the PRP injection, the whole deal. It's super rare that you actually fully recover from that. I mean, I don't know if it's the exact same case, but Kyle Bradish had the partial tear, comes back, pitches well, and then it tears more. So it sucks.
Massa.
It's been over 4 months, though, dude. Like, what else can you do in that span? I don't get it.
4 months
rest,
in rehab,
PRP.
I mean, it's you rest it. Rehab isn't coming back. PRP. Hopefully, maybe it's even a PRP shot right as soon as he got injured.
Right.
But shouldn't you know after a couple months? I mean,
but then you build up your.
But Bradish didn't know. He came all the way back, and then after 3, 4, 5, 6 starts, whatever, he went down. I want to get to a few more, and then and yes, Tanaka had the tear. But I know we're talking about Tanaka. He pitched a long time ago. At this point, there's not that many other guys that have made it to the other side without the surgery.
He also didn't pump. He also didn't pump 97 all the time. The only time Massa pumped 97, he always had it in his back pocket. When he would hit somebody, go back and look at all his hit by pitches. When he hit him on purpose, it was 97, and he would always go. Oh. He would always go. I got you, and that's it. And that was it. He would never talk about it after that or anything like that. Go look at his hit by pitches. It's pretty funny.
All right, next up, Yamamoto, who spoke to the media this weekend for the first time since going on the IL, and he said, "My goal is to be back this year, and that he isn't feeling any discomfort right now in his right shoulder." I mean, it's a concerning quote. It sounds like it was pretty bad, and he is on the mend. But I don't think anybody anticipated him being done for the year when we first saw that news. So hopefully he makes it back.
Did he say my goal, or did he say my goal is to be back by the end of the year?
You're saying we could be looking too deeply into the way it was quoted?
Lost in interpretation.
That's fine.
After
That's fair.
with the discussion we just had with Ohtani, like,
Listen, that was funny. My goal
well, that's what Scott
or
said.
my goal? You're
You
starting to act like Scott. Scaring me.
I'm starting to look like Scott. That's so nice of you.
No,
Thank you.
act
Look
like Scott. Whatever.
I like to take my time on certain words and stretch them. But anyway, Twins losing Chris Paddock, right forearm strain. Never like to hear that because he's missed a lot of time. He's a fun guy. He's been a good part of the rotation. And then Correa, who's had an all-star great year at the plate too. And he's got right plantar fasciitis. They called up Edouard Julien. They activated Austin Martin from the injured list. Brooks Lee could get some time in Correa's place, but the main man will be all-star Willie Castro at shortstop for the Twins until Correa comes back. They did downplay the Correa injury and say that it shouldn't be a month or even several weeks. So then I'm like, okay, then probably 2-ish weeks. But he's had the plantar fasciitis, and that can linger. So I hope that he's okay and that he doesn't have to play through the tough stuff. You know?
Yeah, I'll keep you live since we'll have break.
I will.
Something to keep in mind.
I will say it forever. We're going to take a break next year.
Yeah.
Plantar fasciitis is the worst injury besides turf toe
Whatever. On
that
your
you
foot.
could have.
On your foot.
Terrible. Don't want any plantar fasciitis.
Need your feet for everything.
And lastly, quick one, Reese Olson, shoulder issue, having a sick year actually. 3.23 ERA, 129 ERA plus. He hits the IL for now. All right, let's talk about trade chips. The Angels actually have a ton of them. It's not the biggest names in the world, but a lot of guys that could shape their franchise in terms of the return for prospects. Will they finally do it and not just sell rentals? Will they sell guys that have more than a year of control left? We will ask the man who knows best. Sam Blum covers the team for The Athletic. We'll also ask him about the Ohtani article, and Trout's coming back on Thursday. Hey, we're back for a few minutes on FT YouTube. It's funny. It's actually good timing. So there is some chatter right now where, you know, the YouTube chat doesn't like a certain dude and they're like, we need a mod in here. I am the mod. I'm in the chat like 80% of the time. I'm here. I see the call outs. I am monitoring.
Who are they fighting
things.
about? Who are they fighting
I
about?
don't know. Some dude's being annoying. I'm like, I got it, guy who we haven't seen in the chat before. All good. We'll keep an eye on it.
Well, hey, welcome, dude that's being annoying. Don't be so toxic. And
welcome. This is Erik Kratz.
Yeah, come on.
And we do have standards. Yeah, we do have standards in
positivity.
here. So I am monitoring. We're close to a little kid timeout for one dude. I'm here though. But we are mods. We figured real life mods, but I see most of the comments. Actually, this is the 1 week of the year where I'll probably miss stuff because the comments get out of control in a good way. There's so many when, say, Ken will pop up and we're getting trade questions. So I'm on it. Luke said, Rays Randy, 2 Phillies for Justin Crawford makes too much sense for both teams.
I always felt like during a trade deadline time when prospects get moved up to the next league, I'm always like, are they trying to up their prospect status by putting them up in the next league, or was it just time? Was it just time for him to move to AA and Justin Crawford just moved to the Reading Phillies? Does it make too much sense? Man, that would be dynamite. Unless you believe that Randy Arozarena is the Randy Arozarena from the first half and not from the last 3 weeks.
And think about Crawford going back to Tampa, even though it's the
That
Sun.
would be crazy.
You know what I mean? That would be pretty fun. I'd like it. I like it. Even though the kid is a stud, he's going to keep working his way up.
And you're still not touching your pitching prospects that the Phillies have, which they've clearly built a cachet of pitching prospects.
Love that
like
word.
a Nick Abel or an Andrew Painter.
Yep.
I don't think they're going to trade Aiden Miller at this point. I think he might be the highest guy on their list too on the position player side, but I like it. Keep bringing the trade ideas. We'll keep an eye on them. We'll keep talking about them sometimes during breaks. Okay. Be right back with Sam Blum in 10 seconds. Back on FT, we're on Bally Sports nationally, and we're on YouTube right now at Foul Territory Show. Sam Blum, who's a regular, joining us at a perfect time, writes for The Athletic. Check out all of his work and check out his latest article on what's next for the Angels. Okay, Sam, great to have you on, as always. I love the work that you do.
Appreciate it.
The
Thank
Angels, of course. I'm going to go right to it because people want to hear the trade talk. We'll get to other things after that. Do the Angels have a long-term plan for how they are going to handle this trade deadline? And the way I phrase it has to include helicopter owner Artie Moreno. He has to be in on this. Otherwise, it can't actually happen. What do you think happens?
I mean, the reason why it's so interesting to me is that this would be a break from everything they've ever done. If they were to go and say, you know what, we didn't want to trade Luis Rengifo, Taylor Ward. The part of the issue they have now is that some of these guys that in theory would have made a lot of sense, who have some years of control left, have either had value decrease or gotten hurt in some capacity. Like Taylor Ward's been in a really epic slump now for a couple months. Luis Renifo's on the IL. Griffin Canning's on the IL. Patrick Sandoval is probably going to be out till 2026. These are guys that I thought would have made a lot of sense for them to trade, and they still might make some sense. Reed Detmer's option AAA. Joe Adele hitting below 200. So there's these are guys that they probably should still consider looking to trade, but you're probably not going to get the max value that you would have gotten. When the Braves lost Ronald Acuna Jr., I thought just strike while the iron's hot. Like the Angels and Braves have a really good relationship with obviously Perry having worked in the Braves front office. I thought that made a lot of sense. Taylor Ward was playing well at the time. The Angels were not. This was a great time to strike. But, they waited, and I think they wanted to see if they could have made a run, and it just didn't happen. So the Angels need to be willing to trade some of these guys. They need to be willing to actually establish a plan. They've never really had a plan. Their plan is always, as I wrote in this article you referenced, I just look at it as a grift. It's every year they're going to sell you on this idea that they're going to be competitive, that they have a good enough roster. And I think every year, if you look close enough, you could pinpoint a good enough roster, but it's never that, it's never what they hope it is. It's never the best case scenario. And I think if you're looking for that in baseball, you're going to be disappointed more times than not.
Can you put your finger on why they don't ever just veer from this rhetoric of, oh, it's going to be good, oh, we're going to keep this person at a trade deadline? What can you put your finger on it, or is it several things?
I think that it's this, one thing I will say for Artie, it's a misguided idea, but it is the idea that he doesn't want to have like a rebuilding, a year where you go in and there's no hope. I think that's the biggest thing here. That is the driving force behind it. The issue is they haven't really spent in free agency since they signed Anthony Rendon. I mean, I think Perry's his fourth year. The largest contract that he signed was Raisel Iglesias, which was like 4 years and 56, I think. And then they salary dumped him three or 4 months later. So this was, they really haven't had the flexibility to sign guys. And so if you're not going to operate as a big market team, which I think the Angels should be in their market, then if you're not going to be like that, then you have to operate like the Orioles and the Reds and the Rays, and teams that are smart, and the teams that are building up their farm system to the point where they're able to compete with a lower budget. The Angels they're not investing in the back end, and they're not investing in free agency right now. And I think they're hoping that this young core, they do have a decent young core. They do have some good young players, but it's not enough to win games at a consistent clip. It's just the fact. I mean, this is that they have enough evidence year after year, and including this year, to see that if they stay on the current path without building up that farm system with players that can make a difference at some point, then it's just going to be the same thing next year and the same thing the year after that.
We know that Perry Managian is under the hand of Artie Moreno, who seems to be a little bit too much of a helicopter owner.
Yeah.
If Perry goes outside of that, which GMs have had a tough time doing under Artie, could it be him getting fired? Like, could we see him trading some of these guys who have controllability and building up this farm system, which doesn't have anything? Because my argument to that is they're in the big leagues. All the guys that should be, learning and growing and building and becoming prospects in the minor leagues are already in the big leagues because they didn't spend much time there. Could Perry get fired unjustly because he kind of went against ownership, or is that something that you would never see happening out there, and Perry's just going to bide his time for his 5 years, and then when it doesn't work out, okay, he'll end up getting fired? Because Perry's worked really hard to get this. He used to shine shoes for the Blue Jays worked
Yeah.
his way up to the front office, and then he was with the Braves there, so he's seen it and he's worked hard to get there. Is that a possibility?
I don't think like it's baked into the Angels culture. I think that you're what Artie wants is kind of what happens. Like I don't think that there is an avenue for Perry to be like, I'm just not going to listen to Artie, because I think that conversation is pretty constant. And it's really like it's very much that everyone's in the room to some extent. I don't see Perry being able to, I mean, you look at this offseason, I'm pretty confident that the Angels were very much, if you were asking the front office, I think that they very much would have liked to have signed some of these guys that probably didn't pan out, like a Blake Snell. But at the end of the day, that just didn't, Artie's the one that did not want that. And that's the beginning and end of it. So I don't see that happening. I do think it's possible that, Perry's an interesting case. It's hard to assess the job that he's done, in my opinion. I think you can look at certain individual decisions that have been good and certain individual decisions that have been really not good. Now, he's working within the margins. Like you can assess his job based on very minor things, I think. Overall, free agent signing, like, minor league free agents, guys, drafts, stuff like that. And there have been some, I wrote an article last week about how that 2021 draft where they took all 20 pitchers has been a humongous flop. But, then the year after they grabbed Zach Neto, and that ended up being, maybe a franchise altering pick. So there's good and bad that's kind of come along with him. I don't see him going outside the grain here. Now, I don't know what that means. A lot of guys who have been let go by the Angels have gotten jobs elsewhere because people recognize that Artie is really running the show there. But yeah, he's at the end of he's in a contract year. Again, I don't really understand that. Like, why would you leave your GM out to dry like that? At the end of last year, they should have said, hey, we think you're doing a good job, let's extend you, or we think you're doing a bad job, let's fire you. But don't let him sit out. It creates a bad incentive structure for any GM to be on a contract year, especially at the deadline. You don't know, what their motivation is going to be, if it's going to be to build the best team possible or keep their job. And you'd like to think that anybody is working in the best interest of the team, but it's on the ownership to make sure that they create incentives for that to happen. And there's no plan here. That's what I always say. There's just like, you throw your hands up and you hope that they stumble into something. They stumble into a plan, but that's what I think this trade deadline kind of could represent, to be honest with you.
It's a senile mentality to handle your GM that way, Sam. It's insane. I almost no shot to grandfathers out there, but it's like, for me, late grandfathers or friends that have grandfathers, if they were running a team and they're just like, I don't know, I got to test them out for one more year. Like, it's not real business. This is not how Major League Baseball operates nowadays. You have
Ron Washington, right? And then like he's on a 2-year deal, so it's and this whole Ron Washington talks about growth all the time, and I've always said, like, well, to what end here? Because he's only on a 2-year deal. Perry, his boss, is on a 1-year deal. So I don't know what that looks like after the season. Like, are you really? I've just kind of said this is really like they always change the narrative in August and September when they fall out of the race, that they're building up the young guys. I just think August and September was April and May this year for the Angels. Until they actually start making decisions that back up this idea that they have a long-term plan, but they don't, right? Like, they don't have any of these people signed. I think Artie is at this point kind of a year. He's 77, right? Like, I think everything here is not building toward anything until they've actually kind of laid out a plan.
Yeah, I hated their offseason too. I was very vocal about it. We talked about it a ton, just picking up some relievers. Kratz is laughing, but it's true, Kratz. I hammered their offseason. Yeah. But I'm not blaming Perry for that either, because I think that's what he was given. Like Sam said, he's not able to do what he actually wants to do, and they can't decide what kind of team they are. They have no identity as a front office, and when that's the case, you have to look up, and everybody's doing it. Okay, so with that being said, my last trade conversation for you, and I know Todd Father's got one more as well, is to put some pieces in play. Let's say that Artie actually wakes up one day in the next week and says, you know what, do what you think is best. I'm going to let you run the ship here for a week. What should he do? Who are the valuable players that other people should know about right now that could contribute to their contending team?
Well, I think, Carlos Estevez is going to be, Carlos Estevez will be an obvious guy that can trade. I look at Luis Rengifo. If you're paying attention to the Angels this year, you'll notice that Luis Rengifo has become a legitimately very good Major League Baseball player. He's figured out how to run the bases. He's figured out his defense, and he's at the time at one point was like leading the big leagues in batting average. He's now on the IL, but I don't think it's going to be a long-term stint there, and he's got years of control remaining. He's the guy that I think that is the kind of the X factor in this, that could probably net you the best return among players. Tyler Anderson's another one in terms of, he's at a bargain at $13 million a year with the year that he's having. I think anybody would want to have him in that rotation at that price. especially for, this postseason, and then you get him for next year. So those are the two guys that really have the most value, in my opinion. Taylor Ward's an interesting case. He's just really had a really tough month, 2 months to some extent, and got hit in the face again. Thankfully, it hit the C flap, but he's dealt with so much, and it's just a matter of coming back. So it's those two, really those three are the guys. But I would say Luis Rengifo is if you want to get a return that could actually impact your roster years to come, I think he's the guy that you're going to want to deal. And we'll see with him. It's that to me is the number one player for them.
So my big thing, which I'll die in this cross, they should have gotten something from Ohtani. Yeah, I mean, I was sitting here begging him, man, this is the time you would get 6, 7 prospects, whomever you really wanted. You can get Erik Kratz to come over there and be a comedian. I don't care what it was. How much has that set them back, really?
I think it's almost immeasurable, because not only did they not get anything in return for Ohtani, but they also sent away, really all of their minor league depth, I would say, in order to be able to build some sort of roster around him in the last 2 months. And then, as everyone will remember, they lost the first 7 games coming out of the trade deadline, but they even at the trade deadline, and this is where I agree with you that it's so flawed. I mean, they're had like a 19 or 20% playoff chance at that point. And I understand when you've been in a playoff drive for 9 years, if you have a 20% chance and you have Ohtani, you're going to want to roll the dice. But it's just, that's how it goes every year. It's like, this was the most blatant example of rolling the dice, but it's really just every year they do this. They'll just roll the dice and hope that it works. And it doesn't. It never does. And I agree with you. I mean, you had a player that could have reset your franchise, and not just last season, but the year before that at the trade deadline, or the offseason before that, really reset your franchise. And they chose not to do that. And they chose instead to now, I don't know how many of those guys, I think there are a couple that are going to make the big leagues that they traded last year, but at the very least, that was trade capital. Like, that was, if you really do want to compete, like some of these guys, you could have traded this year, you could have traded next year, or you could have seen them maybe blossom into big leaguers at some point. But instead, they're left with really what I would say is, 2 high-level prospects at this point, or I guess after the draft, maybe 3, and then some guys in the lower levels in the minor leagues that they're hoping will 4 or 5 years become big leaguers. But you're just so far off from having guys from any sort of pipeline. I mean, it's not even close. And I almost feel bad for their top prospects currently, because there's going to be so much pressure on them to actually perform.
All right, so let's move on to bigger, better, positive things. Mike Trout coming back this Thursday. I want him to be healthy so that he can get traded, but I know that's not happening. We're not discussing that here.
Please.
What kind of excitement is there for the Angels fans that he's coming back, or is it kind of like, well, little too late?
I think it's more the latter. I mean, obviously Mike Trout is immensely popular among Angels fans, so he's a draw for people to come out and watch. And I mean, I enjoy covering a player like him. He's the best of the best, and certainly a great person too, and just had a kid, so it's all very exciting for him at this time. But I do think you're right that it's probably more of the latter. I mean, the Angels are more than 10 games out of the playoff spot. They're 16 or so games below 500. So, and he's taken 12 weeks to come back at this point. We just saw I think JT Realmuto come back and a lot quicker, and is a catcher. And I mean, I use the example of the tennis player Novak Djokovic had meniscus surgery in mid-June and made the Wimbledon finals a couple weeks later. So, I mean, he's taken 12 weeks, right? He's taken a long time to get back. And we'll still, it still has to officially happen. I believe he's playing in AAA tomorrow and the day after. So, at this point, I think for Mike, it's just a matter of showing that he's still capable of doing what we all have seen. It's been a long time since that's been the case. He when he's gotten hurt, those returns have taken a very long time. I think with Mike, the big thing is with him is just I don't, and this is more just me analyzing him and talking with him, is I don't think if he's not fully healthy, I don't think he really wants to go out there as much, because he's not going to be able to be the player that he knows that he can be. It's hard to accept when you're getting a little older. And I think that's something that, not just this year, but the years to come, he's going to have to grapple with, whether that's, moving to a corner outfield, playing DH more, finding ways to stay healthy, I think is going to be very important for him. But yeah, it's exciting that he's coming back. It's just, what does it all mean? And I agree with you on the trade. It's just, he's got 6 years at $35 million a year after this. I just don't know what the market is going to be for someone that's not stayed healthy, regardless of the name recognition and the numbers, that he's capable of putting up.
Sam, I think if anybody is available of the Mike Trout ilk, teams will line up. Teams will find the money. It'll be the same teams, all the teams that want to win. I want to take you to Ken's article about Shohei. Did you happen to read the article?
Yeah.
And your thoughts based on you looking back at your time covering Shohei, and you even talked about it some on our show about how it was tough to connect with him. He didn't really make himself available, didn't talk too much. Now when you read the article, do other light bulbs that maybe Ken didn't hit on get sparked in your head?
A little bit, I think the one thing I appreciated from Ken's article is that it showed some of the responsibility from the people around him, in particular his agent. I think just didn't handle this that well and really hasn't explained it, how this could have possibly happened. That I appreciated that being in there because I think that's an important element of this. I mean, I'm not I think if you're around Ohtani, a lot of what you read in that article wasn't incredibly surprising in terms of just the dynamic between him and Ippei and just the way that he kind of operated. And even being around the Dodgers a little bit this year, he's totally different. I totally agree with it. Dave Roberts' assessment and just everyone who's around him, he's a different guy. And it's, I think, it's, to me, that article just kind of exposed that this kind of was a structured setup that maybe really wasn't working for a long time. Or if it was working, it obviously, wasn't an ideal situation for Ohtani or for the people that really maybe couldn't directly connect with him. So that was an interesting part of it. Yeah, I mean I think it's interesting for a lot of fans to kind of see behind the curtain. But being around Ohtani all this time, I was just happy it's kind of out there a little more because it's not everyone kind of gets that perspective on it, and it's tough to kind of talk about because he's so immensely popular that if you kind of say, hey, he's this, the way he's doing this might not make the most sense for him. It doesn't always land for people. So I like that Ken kind of went into, every aspect of it and was able to lay it out in a way that, didn't blame anyone, but showed how it could happen.
I think some people are probably eating their words too, come to think of it, because for the past year, we would talk about accessibility for Ohtani and how it felt weird. And we went over how some people that we were close with felt like it was weird. Newsflash, it was weird. Some people were like, leave him alone. He doesn't want to do anything ever. I'm like, does he, or is he being protected by a dude who's stealing all of his money? So it starts to all add up. And, it's not like he's the most accessible superstar in the world now, but he is a different guy with the Dodgers. There is definitely a lot more that you're seeing from him and learning from his teammates even that makes a difference. So Sam, appreciate the time as always. Hopefully you get to cover some trades. I am rooting for the Angels to make some damn trades with guys that have value. Rengifo, Anderson, let's go down the line. Follow Sam. He'll be on it at Sam Blum 3 and read his articles in The Athletic. Thanks, Sam. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate it. We'll be right back. But we're staying here on YouTube because we have a super chat. Frank the Blade asks one that we've talked about a lot. Yeah, I like that name.
Frankie B.
Frank the Sling Blade?
Two guard.
The Tank's brother. Will the White Sox trade Luis Robert, and to which team?
No.
Yes.
Okay, to which team then? Because I can't. If I say no, can't trade him to a team if he's not going.
Well, that's true.
Thank you.
Dodgers.
I have one. Yeah,
I think Dodgers are taking him. I think
me too.
That 3-player deal. I think that's man. They got a plethora of guys. Yeah, I said plethora, and that's the ideal choice if they want a lot of prospects in return for.
I don't think the White Sox want big league players.
Well, the Dodgers have good prospects.
They have a ton of pitchers, dude. There's still a ton of pitchers in their system that they could deal. I'm wondering, too, if Chris Getz is having that combo where it's like we could talk Crochet, Kopech, and Robert, but I also could save Crochet for the Orioles, who could use him as a reliever and as a starter, depending on how they're managing innings for the rest of the season and postseason. And I could flip Kopech and Robert over to the Dodgers, because I do think they would take him in that front too.
I don't see three going to the same place. If I don't disagree with that, and I would love to see, if I would love to see somebody, I'd love to see Crochet go to the Dodgers. They know how to mitigate innings, and I think the Orioles will just be like, all right, here you go. We got Garrett Crochet. Go ahead and throw your 7 innings, throw a ton of strikeouts, and we'll see what happens at the end.
Vincent threw out the Mariners too. That's not a bad call. The Mariners need that bite. You need something big here. They need it. Something like
Luis
that.
Robert?
Both of those teams are a good call for Robert if he's going to go somewhere.
Michael Kopech to the Yankees. Good bullpen piece.
No, you could do 3 deals then. You could do Robert to the Mariners or the Dodgers, Crochet to the Dodgers or the Orioles, and then Kopech to your Yanks, or anybody obviously could use a bullpen piece. All right, good question though. Appreciate the super chat. And we'll swing right back. We're going to go over our locks for the day. And then later we'll get to Luis Severino's fun little comments, taking a shot at his former team. Let's get the second half going, people. Oh, look, I love a happy Todd, Father, and Kratz, my favorite stepbrothers. Money bags looking good. It's been a very lucrative year, brother. Rich brother. Up here. This one's rich. Right here. He's up over 3 G's on the season. He's 17-8. Kratz is up.
He's up, but he's 31-38. I don't know how you can be up doing that. It's kind of weird.
All plus money. This is my second minus money under the favorite money.
Oh, okay. Money. So then what are you doing today? I'm curious, Kratz. What do you feel so confident about?
I am going Reynaldo Lopez with the Braves, and the whole game, first 5, under 4 runs. It's the Braves and the Reds, and Hunter Green is going against Reynaldo Lopez, and I have them going under 4.
Under 4 in the first 5
for a minus 105. So it's pretty close to my plus money, man.
You love the unders. From unders.
Just for the first 5.
Yeah.
Then let the gates open. But Reynaldo Lopez has been crushing it. Had a little sputter right before All-Star break. All-Star break will get him right. Hunter Green has just been Mr. Consistency.
Throws flames.
Not a billion punch-outs, but I feel like the punch-outs are slowly ticking up here as the season's going on.
All right.
Good one.
I'm going simple. Going across town to Queens, even though they're not in Queens. I'm going the Mets money line. It's a little higher today, minus 145. I'm going 290 to win 200. Peterson's on the mound. Nice left-handed pitcher. It's not going to be 1-0, but they're going to win. Go Mets.
Go Pirates. You know I almost never pick the Pirates, but I'm going Pirates at minus 125 money line. Cardinals are playing pretty good ball over the last couple months. So are the Pirates over the last few weeks. Their offense looks better. They need more. I almost feel like there's a narrative where the Pirates know that they have a chance to make the postseason. There's this extra motivation playoff feel to how they're playing ball right now, because they're expecting to put pressure on their front office to then make a move or two. So I think they have the pitching advantage. Palante's been great for the Cardinals. He was really good against the Pirates last time through. Both starters have faced the opposing team recently. Keller did not pitch well against the Cardinals. He's got a million pitches. I think he'll adjust. So I've got the Pirates with the pitching advantage at minus 125 to win a hundo. There's your picks. We'll see what happens. Good luck on those locks tonight. And if you're in the DC area, check this out. This one's for you. You can bet on your favorite sports now anywhere in the greater DMV area. It is BetMGM live across the entire district. It just started. So whichever action you choose, you can now easily bet anywhere in DC with BetMGM right in the palm of your hand. You can sign up for an account or log in if you already have one, but you've had to place it near the ballpark in the past. You can check out the promotions, the bonuses, the updates, all that going on right now. Just go over to the BetMGM app and go get after it. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We're going to come back and go over the fun comments from Luis Severino to his old squad. Next up on that topic, prospects. Jacob Wilson, son of Jack, the former big leaguer, is now a big leaguer with the Oakland A's. Very interesting stat line. Our friend Mike Petriello said he was curious to see what this looks like in the majors because he said these are some of the wildest AAA stats he's ever seen, and this dude looks at every stat, Petriello. So he's got a 3% strikeout rate. I know it's a small sample, 90 plate appearances, about an 8% walk rate. He was at a 398 batting average in AAA. The exit velocity is quite low. This dude is not hitting for significant pop. He did play in some hitter-friendly ballparks, but the kind of comps you're getting are supreme contact, right? You're looking at the contact guys like Kwan, Arise. Madrigal's kind of the floor. You're hoping you get something more along the first two that I said. Let's get more from Jeff Ponce from Baseball America on Jacob Wilson and what he thinks.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best hit tools that we've seen over the last couple of years. Really in the traditional sense, when we're talking about pure bat to ball ability, right? We're not bringing an approach and walk rates and all that sort of stuff. We'll get into that in a minute. This guy does not swing and miss. His overall contact rate is in the low 90s. His zone contact rate is 96%, 97%, somewhere thereabouts. There's not a ton of power, but this is a pure hitter. A guy that's going to put the ball in play. He does have some speed. Not a burner, but enough to sort of take that extra base here and there. Really, really strong defender at shortstop. I think an upgrade and a guy that could potentially be their shortstop for a long, long time. In a lot of ways, when I look at Jacob Wilson, he's a bigger guy. He's 6'3". He's not all that small. I think he's kind of what people hope Nick Madrigal could be, but there's actual physical projection with Jacob Wilson.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
We've got time for one today. The Mets play the Yankees this week. Luis Severino was a Yankee, now a Met. I think he's been pretty happy this year. He's having a nice season for New York. At one point, we were like, this dude's going to be one of the better trade pieces, but probably not going to get dealt. He did say this about his former team since he has not faced them and won't face them in this series either.
Do you have any fun with that after you beat them 2 over at Citi Field, saying anything to them or anything like that?
No. We have a group chat that we always talk, the guys who've been through the Yankees and stay with the Yankees. And they talk about me when, I beat the Yankees. Oh, you're afraid of us. But I say, I'm not afraid. You guys, right now, you only have 2 good hitters, I can walk those 2 guys and beat. But now, it's always a friendly competition against, the players that you play with. It's going to be fun. But hopefully in the future I can face them.
Oh, he ain't lying. He ain't lying. That was good. You guys, hopefully you didn't say that when there were, some of those other hitters in the group chat. Like, you guys only have 2 good hitters.
Oh, he definitely said that. He definitely said that. He is so good. Like,
he's sneaky good with it.
He is sneaky good with that. Like, he's a competitor. He's not like people are like, oh, he's just trolling. He's trolling. People get butthurt about this. The dudes that he is getting on right there know that he is getting on them and absolutely love him. Very few pitchers have a connection with position players like Sevy does. So I love that he did that. I love it because he said it first. He's like, the dudes were talking smack to me because they're saying I skipped them. I didn't face them. So he has that relationship. I love this. I also love the song in the background. Throw your hands in the air.
Oh, well, hey, now. Hey, listen, he could have easily kept that quiet, and I think this is the fun part of when guys do come out and explain the group chats that they have and all the fun stuff that they've been talking about with the other players. And this is all in fun, and I hope people don't take this serious like he's knocking the Yankees. Like, listen, you're going to undercut me. I'm going to come back at you. We're going to have a fun little spin of this whole thing and go from there. He's just – I remember when I got a hit off him when I was with the Mets and he was pitching against the Yankees in Citi Field. It was a blooper to right. He looked at me like, oh, you're going to take that? And then I hit a homer, and I'm walking around third, and I said, you're going to take that? And he put his head down, and that's the – back and forth fun stuff about Luis. He's a fun-loving guy, man, and I hope for the best for him, and I hope this stuff keeps going on because this is the fun part of baseball. The group chats are good stuff.
Yeah, he can talk some trash. I like that. All right, so for tomorrow's crew, Ken Rosenthal is back on FT with a lot to cover. Get your questions ready. You can ask them live. I'll be locked into the chat to ask them. Dan O'Dowd, who I mentioned earlier, the former general manager of the Colorado Rockies, great on trade talk, is going to join us to discuss some deals. You can offer some deals, like some ideas, and we can see if he'll accept or reject them. It's a good idea. So stay tuned for I want to see. Write a couple up and throw them his way. Try your Walker one, because we did get a comment from someone who said they were a Seattle and a St. Louis fan, and they approved your trade, which was good. But we'll see if Dan does.
That was his son, but that's okay.
I love you, Braden and Ethan. Thank you.
Braden, thanks for being in the chat. Thanks, everyone. We will see you on Tuesday. Todd Father's back for Thursday, Friday. Bye. Okay, let's slap. Kratz up first.
Oh, gosh. Another one. Another Iron Pig.
No. That's a cow.
It's a cow.
Oh.
Are you vegan?
I looked at the face.
It's the Wisconsin Udder Tuggers, man.
Oh, well, why is it so large? And it looks like a pork face, belly face. I don't know, man. I'll give it an A just because I messed up.
I want to know.
And the others look real.
The creativity's there too for it. So for
little
me,
G.I. Joe lid too. Okay,
yeah,
I'll give it an A.
Agreed.
Scooter
really nice comments.
He booed. He booed, and now he agrees because I said it was an A.
He mooed like
Cowser.
This is where I'm at today.
Cowser.
I'm just explaining.
Todd P.
The utter cutters. Utter what?
The Udder Tuggers. That's why
Todd,
the udder is so big.
Have you ever tugged in?
I was going to ask that. Have you ever milked a cow? Either of you?
No.
I don't remember.
Never have.
I don't want to say
remember?
Yes or no.
Would you black out?
Forget.
What?
I was at a party once. They told me I milked a cow, but I didn't know.
The one party I went to had an ice luge. The other one had a cow.
No, I don't think I did.
Cookies. I forgot about the cow.
Because I've been on a farm once, and I don't remember if I did or not. Whatever.
He doesn't
like
remember.
It's something you would remember.
Under a cow.
Whatever.
Todd has a belly button.
Incredible. This has been really informative and educational. I will leave us, since we have 30 seconds with this. There were a lot of NL wildcard pretending teams this weekend. A lot of flubs. Cubs went into the break strong, came out of the break brutal. Reds out of the break brutal. Who else? There was one or two others that really let the world down. this
I'm
weekend.
Mr.
but I wanted to
Positivity
call
because
those
the
two out.
Tigers didn't let the world down.
Yeah.
Tigers took 2 of 3, kept it
But
rolling.
they're already down.
Like
They're
Scotty.
selling, baby. They're selling.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Hey, Dodgers territory is next. So if you want to learn about what the Dodgers are about to do, Alana Rizzo and Clint Pasillas have you covered, and you can chat with them live, and you can chat with me live if you're not sick of me. I am going to join that chat and hang out with everyone for the next half hour. So we'll see everyone else on Tuesday. Todd Father back on Thursday, Friday. Cam Maven's going to be on Wednesday, and Ken Rosenthal is the superstar over the next week. So we'll talk to him tomorrow.